Making YouTube videos now for about 7 years, and for some reason I am just as nervous making this one as I was way back in 2019. Friends, now many of you know me as Dakota Blue Exotics from my other YouTube channel, but today I'm just going to be Dakota, and just like the channel that I was working on for 7 years, continue to work on, documenting every part of my life, building up that business. I want to do the exact same thing, but instead of the business, we'll be talking about my faith. What better way is there to commemorate this channel and the starting of it than starting at the very beginning, the origin of that faith? And that is exactly what we are going to be talking about today. How I became such a brutal, God-hating atheist to now finding my faith and now becoming a catechumen of the Orthodox Church. The story goes back to when I was just a little boy at about the age of, I would say, 6 or 7 years old. I had a neighboring friend that we would play with, Laura and Sarah. They were both very nice girls, and we would play together and have a good time, except there came one day where that had to come to an end. And the reasoning behind why it had to come to an end, because it was the mother's choice to split us and have us not be friends anymore. Due to the fact is because we did not participate in not the Christian religion in general, but specifically her church. And because we did not go to that church, we were condemned to hell for eternity. And this was my first interaction with faith. I come from a family that is, you can call lukewarm Christians, at the top to the bottom being profounding atheists. So there's very little ideology when it came to the theology of Christianity, to where that was my kind of first introduction to it. Now, this was a pretty negative first impression that I have had on the faith, and as I become to get older and older, the negativity just it gets worse and worse. I've grown a little bit more. I was raised in Texas from about 6 to 19 years old, and so what you have is a profound Protestantism. The Protestant denomination rules very heavily in the South. Obviously, the Southern Baptists, your mega churches, these are things that you don't really find too much up here in the North, but down there they are very common. There came a point in my life where I was an adolescent where we began attending one of these mega churches. I won't forget it, the Fellowship Church in Texas. It was a massive auditorium where rock concerts were put on, well, Christian rock concerts were put on, and then about 15 minutes of scripture, and then you were done going down escalators and elevators, getting on the golf cart, starts with a T, to go to the massive parking lot. It was funny looking back. You could probably fit 5 or 6 of my churches that I attend to now inside this one thing. This is a very short-lived practice. While I was in my adolescence age, I would say around 9 or 10 years old at this point, my sister being 4 years younger than me, so she would have been at about the 5 or 6 area. Now, for those who don't know, Baptists believe in believer's baptism, unlike the Catholic or Orthodox that do infant baptism. Protestants believe that you should only be Baptists believe you should only, probably other Protestantism, I don't know all the denominations. They believe that until you fully believe in Jesus Christ, that is when you become baptized. However, only our short term, I mean, it couldn't have been more than like 3 or 4 times we attended church. Obviously, my sister was in the children's care, where I was more in the adult area, the rock concert, if you will. At that point where the teacher came to my parents and said that my 5 or 6 year old sister at this point has found Jesus Christ in her heart and she is ready to be baptized. In my opinion, the believer's baptism, this scenario, believer's baptism, is such a paradox within itself. It almost seems like they want to play both sides, right? You want to bring in the people that believe these infant baptisms are wrong and not right, and you should wait for the child to consent for baptism. However, then you are only waiting such a short amount of time before trying to indoctrinate that child into believing Christ and performing that baptism. It just seems, in layman's terms, you got to pick a side of the fence, right? Instead of just sitting right in the middle, but nonetheless, it turned off my parents pretty heavily, and we packed up and didn't head back after that day. We now continue on to the hardening of the heart, right? You have the negative first impressions of what religion was, followed by now my parents saying that it is wrong and we are no longer going to church. So as I continue age from my adolescence into my teenage years, my heart becomes more and more hardened to Christ as the time goes on. Coming on to my teenage years, we have what really cements the last milestone of my hardening of the heart. Now you can tell by my physical appearance, the tattoos all over my body, that was in the alternative subculture, the emo, if you will. Skinny jeans, swoopy hair, all of that good stuff. Now, obviously, that is going to make me a pretty big target when it comes to the evangelicals and the Southern Baptists coming in and either trying to save me from this road that I'm going down, from sinning, and or condemning me to hell because of simply how the way I look. That was very disheartening. This wasn't one big momentous thing that caused it. However, I would say more of so deaths of 1,000 paper cuts, going down to our little town square, busking, playing my guitar, which is still there. I have about 10, 13, 15 years later. To have that, just trying to have a good time and just constantly being hurdled these things, it was just kind of the last straw. And at that point, it was pretty cemented that I was an atheist. I would do anything that I could to poke fun at Christians, just to be in their opposition, because I held so much disdain and hatred for Christ, not due to himself, right? Obviously, my mindset at this point is it's so much ignorance, like so many people do in the world, of what Christianity really is, right? We have this, we compile Protestantism, Catholicism, Orthodoxy, maybe not even Orthodoxy. Many people don't even know about this denomination in the West, but we may create this Frankenstein of what religion really is, having only half-truths and maybe a quarter of understanding of what the Bible actually preaches and what it says, and you come out to, well, what the average atheist really thinks, right? And I was the same way. I didn't fully understand. I had but a small inkling of knowledge. I remember the first time I opened the Bible and started reading, and my mind was blown. I was like, everything that I thought I understood about Christianity, it turns out to be vaguely I would say pretty much the exact opposite of what I thought it was. If you guys are a fan of the other channel, you guys know what happens next. That is me going down a very, very dark road. A road filled with poor decisions, homelessness, drugs, addiction, so on and so forth. If there's ever a person that was not deserving to be forgiven, it would be me. I have broken every commandment that there is. I have sinned countless times over many years. I have called God everything under the sun, and yet He still give forgiveness, to still show your light and to reveal yourself to someone so disgusting, so vile, such as myself. It is one of the most beautiful things that I will ever know and feel. This isn't where the story ends of the atheism to faith that takes place many years later. I'm happy to say that I am now 12 years sober, coming on to 12 years now, whereas when it comes to my faith, I am only but 1 year into it. So this is something that it's something that I found a little bit special and something that I really would like to share, which is part of the reason why I'm making what I'm doing today. That is because my finding of faith did not come from the fear of my mortality, the fear of whether I would go to this heaven or this hell. It was not the fear of overcoming and wanting to overcome my addiction. You know, I did that myself. And it wasn't God using an excuse to get clean or anything like that people can spin and twist around to whatever they want. No, it was the simple truth of Christ revealing himself to me when I finally opened my heart to him. This video is long enough now, so I will wrap it up. So now we get back to at the end of 2025. This has been a very financially precarious time for me. Sales have really dried up. I'm not making the money that it used to. It is getting lower and lower each coming month until we lead up to this exact moment, right? The moment where I had not made a sale in months, not even an inquiry on someone wanting to buy an animal from me. In about, it was 3 months I went without anyone even asking a singular question, a comment, no inquiries whatsoever. This is important to lead up to it. And I was trying all the things under the sun, right? Hoping, wishing, marketing, all of this stuff. My family, they're big on the universe, the law of attraction. There is the movie and book, The Secret. That is what they're into, and I tried it. You know, I was manifesting, trying to make it happen. It wasn't working, and then we get to the night before, the moment where everything shifted. Now I was short on rent by $200, right? Rent is due the next day. I don't know what to do. I am out of options, and I don't know. I did not know what to do, and so a thought just popped in my head, and it said, well, you don't have anything left to lose. What would it hurt to pray, to actually pray? You know, not this half-hearted, please, but to get on your hands and knees over the bed, right? To assume the position and really, I mean really, lay it all out there for him. And that's what I did. I prayed, not with my words, but with my heart. And I asked him to reveal himself in this way, that if this was a way to show us a sign, it would be to me to have an animal sell in order to make rent, to continue doing what I'm doing. And if that was the case, if this moment, that this night I would make this sale and continue being able to do this, then I would take that as a complete and objective sign that Christ is real and become a devout follower from that day forward. Well, I guess we all know what happens after that, considering I am here right now. I'll never forget that night, man. My friends, 11:49 hits, exactly 11 minutes before midnight. And what happens? I make a sale. There's no inquiry needed, no questions asked, no leading up to the sale. It was simply put. They wanted the animal, they bought the animal at precisely enough money that I needed to make rent the following day. To me, the number 11 holds significant relevance to this exact moment, right? There are two iterations that we can talk to, two trains of thoughts. Number one being 11 being a very symbolic, a spiritual number, right? It talks about spiritual awakening and the relevance of that. We can talk about 11 taking place, 11 resembling destruction into a new transition, such as Joshua 11:11. Now at this point, numerology isn't something I really focus on anymore. However, in my much arrogance to the faith, this is what I took as just another compliance of a sign to for it to be fulfilled. And now I was a man of my word at that point. There didn't need to be a second thing to make me understand and make me want to, maybe this one was a mess up. Let me try it. Let's try again. Reveal yourself to me again this way, but this time I'll do it. No, I asked and I got exactly what I asked for, and it was my turn to hold up the end of our agreement. And what I said, as if accepting God to your heart is some transactional agreement. Of course, you can come here and say, well, Dakota, that was just a coincidence. That doesn't mean nothing. You uprooted and changed your entire life. You went through a lot of stuff that we can get into later on, or else this video would be hours upon hours long. Simply put, it's a coincidence. That doesn't mean that Christ is real, that Jesus is real and he revealed himself to you. And to those people, we reach an impasse, right? I cannot physically prove that. I cannot objectively prove that is what it was, right? That he revealed himself, and this is exactly why. This is 110% proof on what I have on how he did it, right? Just in the same moment that you cannot contradict that statement. You cannot say that you have 100% proof that it was merely a coincidence and that everything that you are believing is false for that reason. I distinctly think about an argument that I had months later with a person, and I was just, over again, this and that, this, and it wasn't good enough for them to believe. This wasn't good enough for them to believe, until finally, I looked them in the eye and I said, okay, what would it take for you to truly believe that God is real? And they said back to me, I don't know. I don't know what evidence I would need. That is when I realized that until your eyes open up, right? Until your heart opens and you look and you hear, instead of keeping everything closed and shut, there's just no point in that argumentation. It doesn't fulfill anything. It does not move me any further away from my beliefs, nor does it move you any closer towards mine at the same time. And of course, we could go into my life. We can dissect every fabric, every inch of my life, picking apart. Oh, well, here's a sign here, and there is a sign right there, and we could measure them up. That there was this many signs that Christ could be real in Dakota's life, but there was this many that proved that he could not be. It doesn't work that way, though, right? There's not Christianity is not a measurable item to prove something as real. It's the exact contradiction of what faith is, right? Faith is the belief. To have faith is to understand that you believe 100% into something that you cannot 100% prove. And I think there's great beauty in that sentiment right there. That, my friends, is my origin story. Being atheist for decades of my life to finally opening my heart to Christ and believing in him. Now, there are many ways we can branch this off, and that we will branch off later on. How did I get from this one moment now from, well, God is real, but where do I go next, to finding the Orthodox Church, embracing myself in the Orthodox space, becoming a catechumen within that church. There are many different roads we can go on, but we will end it here. If you guys did make it this far in the video, I thank you, I really do, for hearing my story, because it probably was not all that excitement, but I appreciate that you stuck around for the amount of time that I did talk about it. Thank you. And if you want to join me on this journey and see where this channel will go, because the fact is I do not know 100% where it's going to go. I did not have a set plan when I started this. I just knew that I felt a calling to start making content about my faith, and now here we are. Of course, hit the subscribe button, all of that. That is going to do it for today. Thank you guys so much, and God bless.